Hi guys, welcome back to Let's Go LO. It's Drishti.
And Aveen, and today we are interviewing Library Director Melissa Kelly over Zoom about her role in various aspects of the library.
Well, let's get started. Can you introduce yourself and your position at the library?
Yes, my name is Melissa Kelly, and I'm currently the library director. I feel very privileged to be able to serve as our city's library director. I've been in this role now for just over 6 years. I started 2018 and was actually hired here at the City of Lake Oswego Library in 2015. So I joined as the circulation manager and then moved up to director. And I was doing the math today, and I'm just shy of 20 years of working full-time in libraries. So
Oh my
time
gosh.
flies when you're having fun.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. So next year at this time, I'll be reaching
that's
that 20-year
exciting.
mark. Yeah.
Awesome. So, how did you start working at the library, and why did you know that this is what you wanted to do?
I love that question. I started in the library actually as a high school student. My mom was like, hey, you're going to be graduating next year and you have these volunteer service hours that you need to complete. Like, you need to start thinking about this. And I loved reading. So I thought, well, I want to do it at the library. And so I volunteered at my local public library and helped to shelve books and cover books and do random projects that they needed done. So that's how I started. And then when I went to college, I went to Willamette University and thought, well, I really enjoyed that experience. I want to try to get a student library job. And so I was able to work part-time in the library there while I was going to school. And I always really liked it and loved helping people, but honestly, I didn't really see myself in a library career. And I think I was lucky because a full-time position came open at that Willamette University library shortly after I graduated. And I applied and got the job because I had, progressive experience in that direction. And that's when I really fell in love with libraries because, again, I always enjoyed reading, learning about books, helping people. But when I got into meetings with the librarians there and they were talking about the philosophy of libraries and all about, equitable access to information, being a safe place, creating belonging for everybody. I'm actually getting goosebumps right now as I talk about it. I was like, this is what I meant to do. It kind of builds on helping people and just in an even greater way, being able to give back in a job that you really enjoy doing. So I was hooked at that point, and that's when I realized I needed to get my degree in library science at some point and make this a career.
That's really cool that you had that realization moment.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I love that.
Yeah, I remember it really clearly and just being like, wow, this philosophy behind public libraries is just amazing. And actually, I was still in an academic library at that time and just fell even more in love when I came into the public library sphere, got to help even more people of all
Great.
ages.
Well, how does the Lake Oswego Library engage with the community effectively to promote usage of the many different resources you offer?
That's a great question. And I think it's always an area that we could improve on. But we do try to be very effective in reaching the community. We use a lot of the traditional ways of getting information out, everything from word of mouth when we're helping people in the library to in-library signage, um, posting things on our website, on social media. We do have an e-newsletter as well as a printed press release that we put out every month. The e-newsletter is actually twice a month. We also are fortunate to be part of the city organization, so we're able to put messages out to different community groups through the city channels, and then often we'll reach out to different partner organizations and ask if they can help share information about our events. We also will sometimes reach out to the Lake Oswego Review or a media outlet and talk about a story or new program we're doing to get additional attention and promotion. And then whenever we're out and about doing outreach, we're also talking up everything that we do. But as I mentioned, there's definitely room for improvement. There's a lot of folks that we aren't reaching or folks whom maybe generally know about the library and that it's a great place, but don't know all that we offer. And last year when we did the visioning process, we had some consultants that worked with us. And one thing that really stuck with me is they said, in every community we work with libraries, this is a perennial issue of a lot of folks don't know all that the library offers and have an outdated view of what the library is. So I think that's something that we're continuing to experience and try and push through. We heard from so many people during that visioning process. Over 3,000 Lake Oswego residents participated, which was an awesomely high number. But a lot of folks told us, you should do home delivery, you should do a library of things, you should do tech help appointments. And we were like, great, we already do those things and people don't know. So they had a few great ideas of things that we needed to consider start doing as well. But a lot of what people were asking for, we do already offer, and we were like, oh, how do we do an even better job of getting the word out? So that's definitely something that we're continuing to work on, and it's part of our strategic plan right now to develop more consistent branding and communication plan and processes so that we can have even more promotion and understanding in the wider community of all that the library offers, because it's amazing.
Yeah, great. Well, speaking about events, what are some of the biggest programs or events that you'd say the library puts on?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Lake Oswego Reads definitely comes to mind as one of our biggest programs. We're actually about to go into our 19th year of the program. And Lake Oswego Reads is a program where we select one book for a citywide reading experience. And the Friends of the Library help us to purchase those books and bring the author into the community. We also work with all kinds of different community groups and organizations to host events during the month of Lake Oswego Reads, which is currently the month of April, to tie in with the themes of the book. So it's always an amazing month of programming. Other big programs that we have on our annual calendar include the Martin Luther King Community Celebration every January and the Lunar New Year Festival in February, typically in February. And then our other biggest programs are primarily the children's programs in the summer in particular, with like Camp LOPL. All of these programs really that I've listed, we don't have capacity in the library to host the number of people that attend. Actually, it was I think 2 years ago, the Lunar New Year Festival, we had 1,100 people.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Which,
amazing.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say this on a podcast, but I don't think the fire marshal would have been very happy with us had he come into the library that day. We were delighted to have so many people, of course, but we want to have a adequate space to host everybody safely. So this year we're looking at other venues to be able to host those events where we can have a higher capacity.
Great.
I hope that works out.
Yes, me too.
Our next question is, how does the library cater to different age groups?
That's a really great question. We certainly have staff with expertise serving different age groups. When you are in a Master's of Library Science program, there are different paths that you can take, including children's services, teen services, adult services. And so we do have staff that are trained in all of those areas and work really hard to provide age-appropriate collections, services, and events and classes. So just a couple of examples for you. In our early literacy story times, we start with a baby. We have 4 babies because they have different needs than even 1-year-olds. And then we have the 2 to 3-year-old story time that we call toddler story time, and then the 3 to 5-year preschool story time. So again, there's different needs that each age group has as they are developing those early literacy skills and learning to read. Some of the services, we have 1,000 books before kindergarten for the really young group. We do a lot of support for the OBOB program, the Oregon Battle of the Books, to kind of meet that school age interest. We have homework help and research help as folks are getting older. And we have tech help appointments also, for all ages, but often we see seniors in our community that are really in need of those tech help appointments, and those are very popular with them. So again, as we as people are moving through the stages of their lives, we're always trying to be thinking about their needs at those different stages and providing the materials and services that they need, as well as classes and events that really support them and interest them at those different stages of their lives.
Yeah, I got to see some of the toddler story times and I thought that was really fun.
Oh yes, they're so cute. We definitely have an inside saying here at the library, like if you're ever having a tough day, just go down to story time and just kind of walk by story time for like 2 minutes and you will get a boost of energy to be able to go back and keep
Oh,
going
that's
on with your day.
Absolutely.
Especially the
For
baby
sure.
story time on Wednesday
Oh.
afternoon.
Okay, well, our next question is, what opportunities would you say the library has for youth involvement?
Great question. And I know that this is a loaded question because you already know the answers, being such involved with yourself. But we definitely have a lot of volunteer opportunities for youth, and I think a lot of youth connect with the library in that way. And definitely, through the Teen Advisory Board, teens are able and youth are able to advise on what programs and services are needed, how we can best reach teens and promote all that we're doing. Also on the library advisory board, we have 2 youth liaison seats. So there's ways like that. And then, kind of the traditional, events that we have. Right now, our Teen Reads book group is up and running and as a monthly series. We also have after hours events for teens at least once a year that it depends on, the theme and the date we choose, but often those will be very, very active after hours events with pizza and escape rooms and karaoke and different things like that that are really fun. And we're always, I know teens are very busy. We definitely hear that from you all. We have just a lot going on at that time of life. So we definitely want to be able to provide those opportunities and hear from the youth age groups, what is really meaningful in terms of programs and involvement with the library. And so it's really great that we're able to have the Teen Advisory Board advise on those programs and events that teens really want.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, we're both pretty involved with the library, but you guys are doing a great job. We love being a part of the library.
Yeah, for sure. And I
you.
think especially being part of TAB ourselves, we've seen firsthand a lot of the youth programs that the library has put on. And I think it's just really great to have that in our community.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you guys make it even stronger and even better
Thank you.
through
Thank
all that
you.
you advise. And also kudos on the PSA awards.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
Our next question is, how do you choose the art, such as like the paintings and the sculptures that are displayed all around the library?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a few different ways that art comes into the library. We have a city permanent collection of art that is managed by the Arts Council of Lake Oswego. So a lot of the art on the walls of the library is from that collection. And some of the pieces are really well suited to the library. We have a number of, we have a poetry series up on the second floor. If you haven't discovered all of those panels yet, I recommend going and looking for them because they're really neat, but they're very beautiful in terms of the art, but also, have poems. So some things like that that have writing pieces on them, they've kind of decided these are best suited for the library. And so they tend to just remain on our walls. But there are a few other art pieces that the Arts Council rotates. And so every few years we will have kind of a little refresh of what we have hanging generally in the library. We also have some pieces that have been donated over the years by community members and are now part of the library art collection.
Cool.
And there's a few local history pieces as well. And then the stairwell gallery is a special area where we have community artists. And so each month that's a rotating gallery monthly. And so folks are able to apply to have their art displayed there. And some of the criteria that we use when selecting art for the gallery, we're thinking about artistic excellence and originality, suitability for the general audience that comes to the library, community interests and needs, relation to past or future displays, because we want to have a balance of different topics and mediums and methods and points of view. And then we also have to think about the format of that art and can it be safely hung in the stairwell. But it's always fun to hear from different community members who are artists who approach us and want to get their art in the stairwell gallery. And they're always a little bit disappointed to learn how popular it is and that the wait list is, a year or two out, but we get them scheduled. And then eventually their turn comes around and they're able to enjoy that space. One downside is that the stairwell gallery is not accessible to everybody since it's on the stairwell.
Yeah.
So that one thing we are looking forward to in the future, and when we have more space in the library, is to be able to have the art gallery in an area that's accessible to everyone.
That's so cool that like community artists can come in and
Yeah,
share their art there.
Absolutely.
for sure.
And a
I
lot
mean,
of
I
the
didn't
art
know
is
it
for
was like
sale
that.
too.
oh
Oh,
wow,
really?
I didn't know
Yeah, the
that.
stairwell art. Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I've been going to the library ever since I was a little girl, and I always like enjoy going and seeing like all the new art that
Yeah.
you guys have up and everything. And I think that's just really great to have.
I'd
Yes.
stop at each step and like look at the art.
I know for sure.
It's truly one of my favorite days every month when the new art comes in.
Yeah.
And then there's like a day when it all goes out and the stairwell is just blank for a day and it's like, oh, this does not feel right.
Yeah.
But it's always cool to see what inspires the artists. And we have such a talented artist community here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
Awesome. Well, our next question is, can you share a memorable experience that you've had working at the library?
Yes, I actually thought of a few if we have enough time. Okay. The first thing that came to mind, I think the reason that this was so memorable is because it was a really emotional experience. But this is a time where I was working at the front desk and a family that had fallen on hard times. The mom came in and wanted to talk about getting access for her kids again because their account had been blocked due to overdue fines. And she explained how, she limits her kids to just one item at a time to try and keep that manageable for them, but sometimes things get lost under the bed or, they had some things happen. And I was able to tell her about our new fine waive policy and how we understood that fines create barriers to library use and that, we would be able to waive her fines and clear their account because we didn't want anyone to be limited in their use of the library. And she cried. I mean, she was so happy that she was able that was the outcome, and that just really stuck with me because, of course, that's why I work in the library is because I want to help people access information and remove those barriers to use. And it was just a really powerful. It was a powerful moment for me to just realize how important the library is in people's lives and how important it is that we remove all the barriers that we possibly can so that folks can get access to information. And the idea of having to limit your child to just one book at a time because of a concern like that, it just honestly broke my heart. But we hear that from a lot of people. So it was a really great moment to be able to share about our fine waive policy and remove that barrier for that family and just experience that emotion. And I think all of my examples are kind of emotional. Another memorable experience is I have quite often we have some people that are express concern about diverse materials in the collection. And we had a situation recently where a family overheard a person complaining about some materials that they didn't think were appropriate for kids that were on LGBTQ lived experiences, and the staff did a really great job, explaining that, we support you to make choices for you and your family as to what's appropriate, but we are not going to remove choices for others. We're defending that freedom to read. And after that person left, another family that had overheard that interaction came over and shared that they're a non-binary, community member and how important that was for them that they see themselves and their family reflected on our shelves and how happy they were to hear us defending their freedom to read. So that was another very memorable recent experience. And then going back a little bit further, I was thinking about our parking lot library during COVID and how amazing that was during a time when we were all feeling so isolated, to be able to pop up that parking lot library and get people out in a safe way to be able to browse and interact, and how much joy that brought to the community. So those were just a couple of the memorable experiences that
Thanks for
stuck with me
sharing.
that I wanted to share.
Yeah. So for our last question, which is like a little bit more of a fun question, do you have any favorite books or movies you'd recommend to our listeners?
Yes, I do. So 2 books that I was able to read, well, could have read them anyway, but found out about them through the Lake Oswego Read Steering Committee, are 2 books by Erin Morgenstern, The Night Circus and The Starless Sea.
Oh,
I just hadn't had a chance to read her books, and then both of those books over the past few years, the committee considered. I think they both would have been excellent potential choices, but I really love both of those books and would recommend them absolutely to all of the listeners. They're just really incredible and really creative, inventive stories. So definitely recommend those 2 books. Anything by Isabel Allende. I first read House of Spirits, I think in high school, or maybe it was early college. I also, one of the next books I read of hers was Daughter of Fortune. That's one of my all-time favorite books. I highly recommend it also to anyone listening, and pretty much anything that she releases, I love. A couple of the most recent ones that I would really recommend: Violetta, The Japanese Lover, and then The Island Beneath the Sea was a more challenging themes, but that book also really stuck with me. And then a movie I wanted to recommend. This is such an interesting movie. It's called The Last 5 Years. I don't know if you've ever
I've never
heard
heard of
about
it.
it or read it
yeah.
or seen it, but it stars Anna Kendrick and Jeremy Jordan, who you might recognize their
Yeah.
names. And it's a musical that's really creatively done. It's the story of their relationship told in song. And the songs are just amazing. Like, I have borrowed the soundtrack from the library like almost annually since watching it, because they're so good. Like, you will belt them out in your car and in the shower, etc. after you watch it. But it's really neat because it's telling their stories from 2 different timelines. So it like starts, it's like one of the characters, it's like the beginning of their relationship to the end, and then the other character is telling it from the end of their relationship to the beginning through song. It is just the most amazing movie.
Yeah,
I want to check that
And
out
it's,
now.
I know, me
yeah, oh,
too.
please do. And then we can talk about it, because I keep
Okay.
encouraging people. So.
Yeah, I've heard of the Night Circus, which you mentioned before,
Me
and it's
too.
on my TBR list. But yeah, I definitely am interested in reading that now. So thank
yeah,
you so much for all of your recommendations.
Yeah, thanks.
But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to interview me and help spread more information about the library to the
Well,
community.
thank you for your time.
yeah,
That's
for
really
sure.
valuable.
I mean, we really enjoyed hearing everything you had to say, and we're glad that you were willing to share your insights with our listeners. So thank you again.
Yeah.
And do you have anything
Thank
else
you,
to share
Avi and
before we close
Indrishti.
up?
I think just a general shout out that the library is here to serve the community. We're always interested in hearing about community needs and how we can address them, and really encourage anyone who hasn't connected with the library recently to do so, because I think they will be really surprised with some things that they might not know that we offer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed what Melissa Kelly had to say and learned more about the community.
Thank you all for listening in, and we hope you come back soon to listen to our next episode.
Bye!